Well, good morning and welcome to another Memphis Monday 153. Today we're going to build ourselves a kitchen island. A friend of mine needed a new kitchen island and I volunteered to do it. So let's knock off the chit chat. We've never done a project like this before, so let's get excited and knock off the chatter and get to work. I went over to my friend's house and we spent about an hour going through exactly what you wanted. Made several sketches and drawings and measurements, and this is what I come up with so far. I've essentially built the carcass here. It's kind of a two-sided deal. It'll have cabinet doors down here on the bottom, 3 of them, and up here in the top it'll have 2 drawers in each slot here. So then over on the other side, these will be movable shelves in this side of the cabinet, and we will top the whole thing off here with this butcher block top that she had on her old island. Right now the case is square, as you can see, but keeping it that way without a back is a problem. Let me show you how I'm solving that. Well, technically this thing doesn't have a back, it does have a middle, and so what I've done is I've installed this 1/4-inch sheet of plywood in the middle in a dado, and I'll nail this to the frame, and that'll keep the whole thing from racking. So what I'm doing is I'm nailing through this 1/4-inch sheet of plywood into the shelf divider, and I don't want the staples to be noticeable, so I'm nailing them way down low. What I'm doing now is installing these little blocks in the corners, and they'll be glued and nailed, because you never know what kind of abuse this thing's going to be taking. All the weight will be sitting on this kick plate here, and so you don't want this thing to come apart. And with these blocks glued and nailed, these corners will be incredibly strong. Here are the blocks. They're glued and nailed in place. These legs are probably strong enough without it, but these blocks here will ensure that this thing can never come apart. Okay, I say we flip this thing over on its bottom, see how it's going to sit. Now, to give us an idea of the proportions of the thing, let's try to get this top up on it. So it'll sit up on that little, on those little legs, give you a little toe clearance there. And it'll have this butcher board top, and it'll have drawers. It'll have 6 drawers in the top, and then 3 cabinets in the bottom. case is made out of maple plywood, and the trim is oak. I'll spare you a lot of this trim work. It's kind of fiddly. It's fiddly and kind of repetitive. And I'll work on this trim for a while, and I'll come back if something exciting happens. Putting mitered corners on the trim wherever it makes sense, wherever it's really exposed. There's a lot of things to remember with trim, but one thing is real important is to make sure your gun is set so that it's set in your brads so you can fill your brad holes. Now I just put this trim on. It's all square, and but it's not rounded over. It's not sanded. I'm going to do all that after it's already in. And I got all the trim on the front. Now let's turn around and work on the back. Putting together one of the 3 sets of drawers. Make sure they work. Here I'm cutting the plywood for the bottoms. We've made these kind of drawers before. What you do is you put a dado on the inside of the box, and then you slide the bottom into the dado, and you keep the bottom part, the back here, low, so that you can nail the bottom right into the back there, and that keeps the box from flexing. I'm building this thing upside down, so I got to keep that in mind. This gap isn't big enough for those 2 drawer fronts to come together elegantly. They'd be rubbing against one another. It would be so close and just be a headache. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these down to about I think about 5 inches, and that'll give me plenty of space between the top, the bottom, and the middle. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. The width of the box now is 6.5 inches. I'm just going to cut it down to 5.5 inches on the table saw. I went ahead and made the drawer fronts. Now I'm putting the sliders in the other drawers openings here. What I've got is I got a block of wood that I set the slider on so it's level with the frame, and it also supports it so I can put the screws in. And then I'll put this other block on top of that and put the second slider in. I got our full extension drawer guides all installed. I'll go ahead and make those other 4 boxes. I got those drawer boxes in. Now remember, we're building this thing upside down. Those are actually going to be on the top. Let's go work on the drawer fronts. Well, a couple of minutes ago you saw me working on these. All I'm doing now is smoothing them down a little bit with some 220 sandpaper. Here's the handles we're going to use. Just got to make sure they're centered, and so they're all in the same place so they look stupid. You can't have a little jig like this where you drill through there and you line it up there. But I've been using just a marking jig here. There's my center, and that's 1.5 inches out to each one of these. Center that. I gotta drill the holes through. Now my handle will exactly line up on those holes. What I'm doing here is setting, pinning these drawer fronts in place. And then I'm going to flip the whole case over, I think. I thought it was going to be easier to work on this thing upside down, but I was wrong. And of course, the reason it wasn't easier to work on upside down is because I couldn't get the drawer was upside down, so I couldn't get in here. So that was an obvious thing. I got the drawers in. Now what I'll do is take the drawers out and do a little sanding. I've sanded her down. Now I'm going to put a little stain on it. I'm going to use this natural stain. This thing should have basically the same look as my furniture here in the shop, with the oak on the maple. I'll get these drawers stained and we'll put it together and see what it looks like so far. Well, I think this is all we can get done this episode. We've still got 3 cabinets to build with removable shelves. We've got the top we have to do, and we haven't even talked about the back here. We've still got to rig removable shelves here in the back. So I think I'm going to call this the end of part 1, and we'll finish this thing in part 2. Well, that'll do it for episode 153, part 1 of 2, building the kitchen island. I know I said I was going to try to get it done in one episode, but it's turned into a much bigger project than I thought. And, you know, I thought by building the cabinet first, that would shorten it down some, but I'm really leaving out a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to split it into 2 episodes. And so next week, we'll finish this rascal up, and because we still have cabinets to put in, we still got shelves to put in, we got to put the top on. I think we got the hardest thing done already. We got the, you know, the drawers in, and they look pretty good. But I hope you don't mind, but we're going to have a part 2. Well, anyway, like and favorite and comment and tweet and Facebook and all the stuff you do on the internet. And most importantly, make sure you're back here next week for another exciting Memphis Monday where we finish the kitchen island. Thanks for playing along.